Good evening, I'm Patricia Vallone with a CTV News update. The events of January 6th at the U.S. Capitol are under the microscope today. For the first time, the Senate is holding a hearing into security failures at the Capitol before and during the deadly insurrection. Byron Scott has our story.
What went wrong and how did it go wrong on January 6th? And could the events of that day been prevented? That's what lawmakers want to know. Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee and the Rules and Administration Committee hearings are for the first time the public has heard from the two top security officials at the Capitol on the day of the insurrection. Both have been blamed for not acting fast enough to call in the National Guard. That attack left nearly 140 police officers injured and several people dead. Stephen Sund, the former chief of the Capitol Police, has said the sergeants at arms turned down his request for the National Guard ahead of January 6 and did not respond quickly enough the day of the attack. Here's what lawmakers are after.
To make this place safe going forward, we must answer some key questions. First and foremost on many of our minds is what took so long to deploy the National Guard that day, both because of decisions made in the Capitol complex, but also by others in the federal government. We must find out what was known about the potential for violence before the attack and how that intelligence was shared with law enforcement partners, including the officials responsible for protecting the Capitol. There are also important questions to be asked about how information concerning those threats was communicated to rank and file officers.
Later this week, the House Appropriations Committee will hear from other high-ranking law enforcement officials. I'm Byron Scott.
The Maryland ACLU and community activists continue their call for accountability in the Prince George's Police Department. They're making several demands, among them new department leadership. They also want police misconduct hearings accessible online, and they say that officers with records of abuse should be terminated and prosecuted. These demands come following the release of the Graham report. That report, related to a bias lawsuit, details allegations of systemic racism in the police department.
It's disappointing to know that all of this information that's in this report was known by several people within PG County, going all the way up to Angela Alsobrooks. This is not information that could not have been used to stop the abuse and the murder of several people.
The groups plan to share their demands with the county executive. Meantime, the unredacted version of the Graham report was ordered released earlier this month by a federal judge. Findings include inadequate handling of harassment and discrimination complaints and different treatment for white officers accused of misconduct. The expert report was prepared by Michael Graham, a former senior officer for the LA Sheriff's Department. It was written in conjunction with a lawsuit filed by the Hispanic National Law Enforcement Association, as well as others. Controversy at the Prince George's Board of Education continues. Elected members say that the meeting agenda was posted late this week by new chair Juanita Miller, and only 2 items are up for discussion. This after Miller canceled a meeting earlier this month and threatened to shut down future meetings until an investigation of how contracts were awarded was completed. Elected members say there is no accountability by board leaders who are appointed by the county executive.
It's been really difficult to kind of sense what accountability looks like for the board chair and for board leadership overall, because board leadership is not selected by members of this body of the Board of Education and appointed by the county executive. So for no action, no word, no formal reprimand by the county executive, and no power from board members here, it's really difficult to figure out what accountability looks like. And at the end of the day, it's literally about how do we meet and how do we get to work. And it's really, really disheartening for me to, instead of focusing on the issues that are at hand, how are we going to reopen? What are the things that we're going to do to reach our most vulnerable students? Instead, I'm spending time trying to convince my colleagues to show up for work.
CTV reached out to the county executive's office for comment but had not heard back by news time. Should the descendants of slaves receive reparations for centuries of forced labor by their ancestors? Lawmakers in Congress are currently looking at that issue. They're debating a bill this week that would form a commission to examine how the U.S. government supported slavery. The commission could also recommend remedies, including compensation. Representative Anthony Brown is a co-sponsor of H.R. 40.
We've built this country, we've financed this country, but we haven't benefited from our labor and nor our bondage. So reparations seeks to look at that, to fully understand it and try to identify or quantify what is the value of that lost earning and how would you then distribute it individually or collectively.
The fate of the bill is uncertain. Similar legislation has been introduced almost every year since 1989. In other news, 2 people are dead and 4 others are injured following an early morning crash in Suitland. U.S. Park Police say the incident happened just before 1 a.m. on eastbound Suitland Parkway near Branch Avenue. The 2 victims, a man and a woman, were in the same vehicle. The other 4 were in a second car. The crash is still under investigation. And you are watching CTV News. I'm Patricia Vallone. We'll be back in just a moment.
For the latest information on COVID-19 in Maryland, visit the State Health Department website. That's health.maryland.gov. Again, health.maryland.gov. Click the link to the COVID-19 information portal. There you'll find all the latest information about coronavirus. You'll find daily updates on cases and fatalities. Answers to questions about testing and the governor's stay-at-home order are available as well. For specific information about Prince George's, visit princegeorgescountymd.gov. That's princegeorgescountymd.gov. The site offers information about local services for residents and businesses. There's a link for COVID-19 relief donations. Also, food pantry locations are listed. And if you have any questions, call the county COVID-19 hotline at 301-883-6627. That's 301-883-6627.
Welcome back. The Maryland Health Department reports 30 COVID deaths in the last 24 hours. The state death toll is now nearly 7,600. Meantime, 662 new infections were reported today. Maryland is launching a system to allow residents to pre-register for COVID vaccines at mass vaccination sites. Health officials made the announcement yesterday during the weekly meeting of the Senate Vaccine Oversight Work Group. This comes as complaints continue to roll in over issues with vaccination appointments. The state's second mass vaccination center is expected to open up this Thursday at M&T Stadium in Baltimore. Healthcare advocates are pushing lawmakers to pass a bill that could potentially give thousands of jobless Marylanders access to health insurance. Maryland Citizens Health Initiative is supporting House Bill 1002. Under the measure, residents applying for unemployment benefits could register with Maryland Health Connection for coverage.
Many people lose their health care coverage when they become unemployed, and many of them don't know that they might be eligible for free or low-cost health care. We can get thousands of people enrolled, which would be beneficial for all Marylanders because the more people get enrolled, the less people using uncompensated hospital care and keeping our premiums higher.
And the Economic Matters Committee held a hearing on the issue today. Prince George's police are looking for the motorist who fatally struck a pedestrian in Seat Pleasant. The victim has been identified as 32-year-old Curtis Parker. Seat Pleasant police found Parker in the 6200 block of Central Avenue early last Saturday morning. He died later at a hospital from his injuries. Anyone who witnessed that fatal incident or who has information on the suspect is asked to contact police. An estimated 16 million people face stalking, physical, or sexual violence by an intimate partner before the age of 18. That according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. In fact, the Family Justice Center says that those numbers have probably increased during the pandemic. During Teen Violence Awareness Month, the agency wants youngsters to know that love should not hurt. Outreach and volunteer coordinator Ashley Greer says there are several warning signs that teens should look out for in relationships.
If anyone is trying to keep you away from family or friends, that's a huge warning sign. Any physical violence, perhaps any mental abuse, name calling, like I said, isolation, any aggressive behavior, manipulation, things like that are things to look out for.
Greer says if teens find themselves in an abusive relationship, they should talk with a trusted adult. The Family Justice Center also provides several resources. Activists, urban gardeners, and biologists are just a few of the hundreds planning to attend this year's Taking Nature Black Conference. The week-long event brings together a diverse and inclusive group of people who are fighting to protect the environment, as you can see from last year's conference. This year, the event is virtual, and nearly double the number of people plan to attend.
Taking Nature Black is a space that has been created along a concept we call Chautauqua. And Chautauquas in the 1920s were how most people in rural America got their news and information. Chautauqua has speakers teaching, prayer, music, a little bit of everything. You know, before there were newsreels, before there was an internet, before there was radio, Chautauquas were how people got their information. So this is a Chautauqua, literally online, designed to convene people of color and to celebrate our connections to nature, our deep heritage with nature and the environment. There are poetry readings, there are panels on serious topics from nationally known experts, birders, and people who are working on environmental justice issues and people working on food justice issues. I mean, the slate's pretty wide of people who will appear at this conference throughout the 5 days of it. It runs from today through Saturday. It's sold out, 900 people signed up. This thing has grown year after year. This is the 4th time we've done a Taking Nature Black, and each year it just gets bigger in terms of participation as word gets out.
The Taking Nature Black Conference is hosted by the Audubon Naturalist Society. And now let's get a quick check on our 3-day weather forecast. A wind advisory remains in effect until 6 p.m. Later tonight, mostly clear with a low of 32. Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 59 and a low around 37. Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 49 and a low of 31. And Friday, mostly sunny with daytime highs will be near 46 and an evening low around 34. And now for your community calendar, feed your soul with a healthy food goal. Join representatives from the Prince George's Department of Parks and Recreation in a celebration of National Heart Health Month. This upcoming free virtual healthy cooking demonstration will feature curry black-eyed peas and a bacon and kale combo. All ages are welcome and registration is required. For more information, visit pgparks.org. And that wraps up our CTV News Update. I'm Patricia Villa, and have a great night.
Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers. You can always find people who are helping. Thank you to all the first responders who put their lives in danger to help us when my brothers and sisters and mom and dad and grandpa and grandma need them. We look out for the helpers because they look out for us.
Thank you, first responders.
You know, there's a rewarding feeling you get when you do like, hey man, I just, we carried a lady out of a fire, you know?
This is what I signed up for as a first responder, and this is what I love to do. And I'm going to continue going to work day in and day out and providing help to those that need it.
Thank you, first responders.
Thank you, first responders. We need you. We wanted to let you know how much we appreciate you.
Be safe, look after yourself, and look after one another. Thanks.
The coronavirus has affected the African American community in many ways, including a drastic drop in blood donations needed for patients with sickle cell disease. If you're healthy, please make an appointment to donate at redcrossblood.org.